If I could stand in the starting gate, 3,000 vertical feet above that finish, knowing that I am going to risk my life, but if I had the confidence to push myself out there and attack the course more than I know the course is going to attack me, I have the upper hand on that course, and I know I can do it.
Welcome to the Spartan DEKA series on Spartan Up with Jarod Cogswell, Director of Sport, and Yancy Culp, Director of Programming.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a good one today, I'll tell you that. We are going to dig deep into the mind of an Olympic downhill skier, Doug Lewis. And we're going to be talking about things like preparing and managing risk, embracing failure, and then the learning lessons that come with it all.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by FitAid. Race dirty, recover clean with FitAid Sports Recovery Drink. Visit lifeaidbevco.com and enter the code Spartan15 at checkout to get 15% off FitAid.
What's up, Spartans? Welcome to the DEKA series on the Spartan Up podcast. I'm your co-host, Jarod Cogswell, along with my brother, Yancy Culp. And today, we got a good one. Wait, you know what? Yancy likes to say, drive fast and take chances. Well, we've got somebody that drives really fast. In fact, you can find this guy. I don't know if he's quite doing it, these days, but he likes to go 90 plus mile an hour down certain mountains. And we're talking about legendary skier Doug Lewis. Now, let me just check off some of these boxes about Doug Lewis. Doug Lewis is a two-time Olympic athlete. He's also a World Cup alpine ski racer, the U.S. national downhill champion. He's also a member of the U.S. National Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame. He's a broadcaster for NBC Sports, and he's also, among other things, he's the founder of Elite Team, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that as well. So, Doug, I want to welcome you to the show, and man, it's so awesome because I know Yancy and I have seen you on TV numerous times, whether you're in the booth or you're actually on that mountain going at crazy, crazy speeds.
Well, it's good to be with us, with you guys, and thank you for the invite. And seeing the Spartan logo, it's kind of taken me back to my death race experience, which excites me and also still scares the hell out of me.
Well, you know what I learned about you, Doug, and I didn't know this, but you were the first ever Spartan Death Race champion. Yeah, there's a whole story there. I signed up for a 10-mile running race with some obstacles with the tagline, "You may die." And I never ran once for 13 hours. And I met Joe DeSena eye to eye, face to face. He wanted to take me down. I would not be taken down. So there was an awesome mutual fight between us going on in that first death race. It was pretty amazing.
I was watching the video.
He wanted me to die.
Doug, I was watching the video during prep, and it's you screaming down a mountain. And then I find myself in another video, and the video was about 80% about Zurbriggen in 1985. And it's like, Zurbriggen goes first, and he does a 2:06 in Italy. And it's like, it's brutal standing down here, and you got to watch the next 15 top guys go. And then all of a sudden the video clips, and now we have Mr. Doug Lewis about to come down, and you finish 14 hundredths of a second behind them. I did the math. I did the freaking math. There are 120,000 100ths of a second in 2 minutes and 6 seconds. You were 14. You were 0.0001% behind him. It was so freaking cool watching that video. As a young kid that traveled from Texas every year, we'd migrate to Colorado for a week and ski. And I grew up watching you and Zurbriggen and Tommy Moe and just, especially all the USA skiers, I had this amazing flashback of being a young teenager watching you and all the rest of them. So watching those videos were magical when you're in that bronze medal, my friend.
Yeah.
Here's the bronze medal right now. It's the first ever for an American in speed. And just to dig down a little deeper in math and speed, downhill we average 60 miles an hour. That is 1 foot per hundredth of a second. So after 2 plus miles racing, I lost by 14 feet. And, was my mouth open? With my hand, I watched that run a million times. I pick out that 1400ths a lot. And one of these days when I'm showing it to a classroom of kids or a corporation, I'm going to win, believe it or not. So we'll wait for that.
Good stuff.
Hey, so Doug, I would never call myself somebody who races down mountains. I'm more of I'm one of those split border guys. I like to climb mountains and I like to cruise down them. You obviously, you're like a bullet coming out of a gun, going, you've been clocked at 90 miles an hour plus. I want to know a couple of things here. One, how do you prepare to move that quickly on skis? Okay. And what's the mindset that you have to come off of that mountain with all your limbs intact?
Right. So probably the most important two things are the inspection. So we do get to side slip down that course. So over the 2 miles, you go foot by foot, inch by inch. You're seeing what the snow conditions are. Is it soft? Is it icy? Is it changing? You're seeing the terrain. If there's a knoll or a bump, you're going to lose pressure. That means you've let go of the steering wheel. If you're in the air, you can't steer. So when are you going to lose that steering wheel? And then, of course, you got to see the line. And by inspecting, and then this is the second part, by visualizing. And visualizing works in business. It works in Spartan races. It works everywhere, but especially in skiing. The more I could visualize over and over again at the right speed, visualizing myself on plan A. So if everything goes right, I'm going to be right on the gates, but that never happens. So plan B, I'm off the gate, I'm running low, or I have more speed, less speed. So you have all these visualizations that you go over at night, in the morning, right before the race. And that gives you the confidence. And I'm going to talk a lot about confidence through there because confidence is key. If I could stand in the starting gate 3,000 vertical feet above that finish, knowing that I am going to risk my life. But if I had the confidence to push myself out there and attack the course more than I know the course is going to attack me, I have the upper hand on that course and I know I can do it. I probably lied to myself plenty of times in that starting gate, but I never left the starting gate with fear or doubt. I always had that confidence. So inspection, visualization gives you that confidence to send it.
Yeah, that's so amazing too to hear that mindset, because when you said risking your life, right? I mean, essentially when you're going at those speeds, so many wrong things could happen. I mean, and there's not too many sports out there that can make that claim. So the mindset piece is got to be just gigantic for all of you.
Yeah, just a quick story. This is the opposite side of it, and it was also a good move. So a friend of mine, Steve Perino, who I worked with forever, he was at the starting gate of Kitzbühel. Kitzbühel is the gnarliest, most dangerous downhill on the circuit. And a couple of our teammates had crashed. It was a gnarly day. He wasn't feeling confident. So he picked up his skis, walked over to the tram, and took the tram down. Probably this, we always make fun of him because he chickened out, quote unquote, but it was the smartest thing he did, because if you're not in that gate confident, you're going to get hurt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
You, at 17 years old, as a pro, walk us through your, the research I did is you go slamming into a ski lift pole at 17 years old. Walk us through that day, which, and if I did my research right, we're from 17 to 24. That's your huge 7-year span of skiing at an extremely high level, correct?
Yep.
And that first year at 17, a young man in high school smashing into that into the ski pole.
Chairlift tower.
Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting, and I'm glad it happened at 17, and I'll tell you why. So it was my first ever World Cup. I was 17. I had skied fast enough to qualify, but if you looked at me, I probably weighed 135 pounds, turned me sideways, stepped back a few paces. You couldn't even see me. I was probably physically not ready to run that course, but I was technically and speed wise. So I'd qualified. So I'm running fourth to last. The TV's gone. The crowds are gone, but it was my day, right? It was my first ever World Cup. Imagine starting your first ever Major League Baseball game or a football, NFL. This was my first World Cup. So I'm running fourth to last. I explode out of the gate. I'm humming along here, and about halfway through, you go over this jump and then you take a slight right turn. And since I was running fourth to last, we were in Aspen. It was a little choppy. The ruts had developed. And at 60 miles an hour, you better, make sure that you power through those ruts. Well, the ruts got me. At 60 miles an hour, I did the splits. I caught an edge, as it's called. The first thing that hit was my head. Luckily, it knocked me out, and I'll tell you why. The second thing I hit was a chairlift tower at about 50 miles an hour. I hit it upside down. Luckily, I was unconscious. I come to right under the chairlift, and I could see the people going over me. Bill Johnson, the gold medalist from '84, yes, was going over. He was just laughing at me. He was like, who falls here? I was tingly, but I had never lost feeling. So I knew something was up with my back. So I got to the hospital. They get me down there. And this is what goes through the mind of a 17-year-old athlete. So the doctor says, you broke your back, T11, 12, L1 and 2, compressed them, crushed them. You're not going to ski for a while. And I'm thinking, this is what I think. Okay, next week's a race. Probably not going to make that race. How about the week after, doc? And the doctor just completely laughed at me. He's like, you do not hear me? You broke your back. You're not going to ski for 8 months minimum. And then the tears came. So the tears came because I could not ski the next week, right? It wasn't because I broke my back. Mm-hmm. But that injury taught me two things. Number one, I needed to be a beast, right? The next World Cup I ran, I was 25 pounds heavier. I had done the work because it proved I needed to be a fitness craze. I needed power. I needed strength. I needed capacity. I needed everything. And number two, it taught me when to risk. Before then, I would risk everything, pulling to the chairlift. I risk it all the time. After that race, I knew race day was risk day. I knew when to parcel out that risk because if you don't, you're going to get hurt. And I never got hurt again, knock on wood.
Wow.
No. How many knee injuries?
I have virgin knees. I've never blown out my knee. So all those young racers out there and the moms who expect that you're going to get a knee injury from ski racing, you do not have to do that.
Love that.
If you manage your risk, if you get yourself in the best possible shape and you get a little lucky.
I got a question for you, Doug. Again, watching Olympic caliber World Cup skiers, it's just a whole nother level. Even though I'm a guy that loves snowboarding, the only time I went back to skiing is because I had to. I was on the mountain rescue team for 5 years out in Oregon. And in fact, the story there is the first time I was on skis, I got dropped off by a snowcat at about 7,500 feet on just a sheet of ice. And I said, what the heck am I doing here? Somebody's going to have to rescue me. So again, when you're not just going with the speed, but the precision, and the obstacles that are in the race, if you could name 3 traits of a world-class skier that they have to have, what they have to possess, that really probably the rest of us just don't have, what is it? Or what are they?
Well, I'm going to start with the one that you may be born with. You have to have a love for speed, right? I think it's something that you're born with. I know plenty of skiers. Ingemar Stenmark, best skier ever, didn't like downhill, didn't like speed. So you have to have that love of speed. And I think I was born with it. I was a slalom and GS, a technical skier growing up, but then I finally got into these downhills and I could not get enough speed. So I think you need either a screw loose or a screw too tight, but you need that love of speed, which I think is what you're born with. Secondly, work ethic. I mean, you watch the best skiers in the world, Michaela Schifrin, Ted Ligety, Alex Pentero, they work the hardest. It's pretty easy. You see them working, and then you see them winning. All right. So that's that work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
And the third thing, I think, because skiing is such a brutal sport, there's 100 people in each race. There's one winner. So technically there's 99 losers. I mean, imagine going back to your house every day being quote unquote a loser. So you have to embrace failure. You have to be able to look at failure as a gift. What did I learn from hooking a tip? What did I learn from my bad nutrition? What did I learn from not having that my stress under control? So those three things. You got to love speed as a downhiller. You got to work your butt off. And of course, failure is so important that you just embrace it.
Yeah, being able to get right back up.
We'll be right back to this interview, but first, a quick word from FitAid, today's sponsor. Why do you race? For the glory? For the honor? For the FitAid? Every ice-cold can of FitAid contains ingredients to help your body recover. It never contains any artificial flavors or sweeteners. FitAid is the clean sports recovery drink. It's 45 calories, certified non-GMO tested, vegan, paleo-friendly, certified gluten-free, kosher, and it never contains artificial colors, flavors, sweeteners, or sodium. And FitAid now comes in a zero sugar option that's keto-friendly with only 5 calories. It's naturally sweetened with monk fruit and stevia. The recovery blend has glutamine, glucosamine, turmeric, BCAAs, omega-3s, CoQ10, a full B complex, and electrolytes. It's perfect for after your race, at the gym, hiking, or biking. Find FitAid at your next Spartan Race finish line, or go to lifeaidbevco.com and enter the code Spartan15 at checkout to save 15% off. That's lifeaidbevco.com and the code Spartan15 for 15% off plus fast, free shipping. Now back to the interview.
You touched on the failure piece, and it made me think about something when I was studying Doug in prep. Several times you brought up as a young lad how looking back on it's like, wow, I was so optimistic. I was this eternal optimist. Talk to our listeners and viewers about that, Doug.
I think it really started with my dad. My dad was an inventor. He was like that, the guy in Back to the Future who wore the chrome, doctor, the crazy doctor. That was my dad. And his thing was, instead of when I would say, hey, I want to be a downhiller. Hey, I want to go run an ultra. Or growing up, hey, I want to go play out in the woods. Instead of asking why, which is most parents' reaction or most coaches' reaction or most people like, why would you want to do that? My dad was like, why not? So I was brought up in this culture of why not? Like, let's try everything, right? And so I was always that person. Why can't I do that? Why don't we do that? And so I had this try everything optimistic view, and I have my 1979 journal. I'm a big believer in journals, and I read this sometimes, and you're right. I was so optimistic. I couldn't believe how optimistic. For example, I would say in here, hey, to graduate out of one of the skiing classes, you had to win a race. And all of my friends were winning these races and graduating up, kind of like from minor league to major league. Mm-hmm. And I put in here, this week I'm going to win, I'm going to move up. And then feeling really good. My coach is skiing, I'm skiing fast. And then on Saturday, my journal would be, fell twice, 7 seconds out, but I made a couple good runs. Next week, I'm for sure going to win. And I don't know how, looking back, how I was so positive. Like, I was terrible. I was finishing in the 40s. I'd fall. But I had this positivity, optimism that it's going to happen if I keep trying. I think it came from my dad.
There's one key journal entry that I got. This one just pulled me to the edge of my seat. In your official, I think a journal that your kids get or whatnot, it says, did I thank the volunteers today? I was like, you're freaking kidding me. That is so, you talk about, we teach our youth about being present. Like, for your students, can you check that box? Did I thank the volunteers today? I loved when you said that on another podcast. I was listening, by the way.
Yeah, that goes into this way of thinking. So kids get off the hill, whether it's baseball, skiing, whatever, and they lost or they got fifth or they didn't get what they wanted. They think of it the whole day as a loss, right? That day was a loss. In our journal, our elite team journal, we have 17 questions. Did you go to sleep on time the night before? Did you pack a lunch the night before? Did you work on your skis? Did you do a warm up? So there's all these yes/no questions. There's 18 of them. So they get done filling out that journal. And even though they fell 3 times and came in last, you look at those yes/no answers and they add up to 12 yeses out of 17. And that's a win. You did 12 things right that day. And that's what I want those athletes to look at. Sure, we could have hit the finish line a little faster, but you just got an A+ on that day, even though you fell. So it's looking beyond that result, looking at the process. That's the key word, right? Looking at that process instead of just the final outcome.
Doug, what I've learned about you and again, we knew who you were before this interview was even going to happen. And especially, just coming off the Olympics, seems like a great time to talk to Doug Lewis. You not only have had a really cool story behind you, but it seems like you're still on this mission to impact others. And I know you're the founder of Elite Team. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and the mission you're on with these young athletes?
Certainly. Thanks for this. So I love to coach the skill. I love to coach on the hill of ski racing. But what I love even more and what we built Elite Team about is if you looked at me, I'm 5'8". I'm a tiny guy. I would hardly, in this day and age with the equipment and the skiers and the athletes, I don't know if I could make it, but I was a tiny guy. So yes, I was a good athlete. Yes, I skied very, very well and worked at it. But the thing that separated me was the sports physiology, my knowledge about knowing how the body works, how to work out and why, sports nutrition, arriving at the starting gate energized, hydrated, ready to push your limits in that way. And most importantly, the third part of Elite Team, besides physiology, nutrition, is sports psychology. So I teach young athletes how to be a complete athlete. Not their skill, not their craft. I teach all the other stuff. So when that 14-year-old arrives to that starting gate, they're confident. They know how to handle the stress through visualization or breathing. They've eaten right. They have their hydration. They're strong. They're agile. They're flexible. So all that other stuff is what I teach. And then if I can get them there to that starting gate confident and ready, I'll let the skiing take over. So that's what I've done forever. That sports physiology, sports nutrition, and especially the sports psychology. Love it.
Yeah. And obviously still you're training like an athlete. You're a pretty fit guy. And Yancy and I have worked with a lot of athletes over the years. And what I've seen from many, many athletes, when they're done playing the game or they retire from their sports profession, they just kind of let themselves go, right? They're burnt out. They quit taking care of themselves like an athlete. What's the motivation for you? Because I know you're still running, you're still doing a lot of things, you're really active, and you can probably compete with a lot of the younger ones up on the hill still.
I think it has to do with pushing my limits. That's been my whole life. Seeing how far I can push my body and mind, especially nowadays. My body's getting old, but my mind is still fresh, I hope. And I try to see what's possible. So after I retired, I struggled mentally for 2 years. Like your identity leaves you. I was an Olympic downhiller. I was in Sports Illustrated. I was this national champion. And one day to the other, I was nothing. I was a freshman at UVM and I had problems like everyone else. And so I struggled for sure. And I tried a couple things. I didn't know where I wanted to go, but then I found the passion. I found my calling. It used to be ski racing, and now it was educating and inspiring young athletes. So after that struggle of being lost, all of a sudden I found the passion. Then I just did what I did as an athlete. You set goals, you schedule out, you put your plans in action, and you work hard, and there's where I went. But until I found that, for sure, I was struggling. So that motivates me to push my limits. And I've been into ultra running these days. So I've run, the last 4 years, I've run 100 milers. And I just love, and people don't understand it, you guys will probably understand it, I just love seeing how dark I can get, how low into some dark hole of negativity and toughness I can go and still run my way out of it. And that excites me. I just can't get enough of it. And
love that.
I don't know. I'd like to go to those dark places, learn about myself, and see if I have the strength and grit to get out of it.
Well, I know that the other, my co-host on this, in this episode, he can totally relate to that. He just turned 50, and once a month, every month, he's doing something that takes you to that deep, dark place, just to see if he can come out of it. And he just had his February challenge last night, so we're gonna get to see that on video today.
I'm just sitting up straight in this chair, Doug, is a little tough. You sparked me a little bit when you started talking about the 100 milers and whatnot. I met Joe DeSena, the owner founder of Spartan, about 30 hours into the death race in 2013. You're 30, 40 hours in, and you find yourself talking business to the guy that's turning you inside out as you're in the side of his mountain. I want to go back to your working with your kiddos, your students. I know you're big on teaching them the why. And I love your 3 pillars, the physiology, the nutrition, the psychology. Talk to our listeners and viewers about the importance of hey, today's an anaerobic training day. So here's not that, hey, just go out there and do it, but the why, or why we're going to take carbohydrates before we go through this explosive bout of crushing ourselves. And I love that about you coaching the why to your students.
Yeah, I was young, one of those idiot young athletes once, and the coach says, "Hey, we're doing hill sprints today, and we're doing 10 of them." And I was the guy who was like, "I'll do them, but why?" As soon as they said ski racing is an anaerobic sport, you have to have the power and the strength to get out of those turns and handle the forces. It's short. Ski racing is 2 minutes long. It's anaerobic, so we have to work on the aerobic. As soon as he explained that to me, I was like, I'll do as many sprints as you want, right? Because that was going to get me to my goal. Why should I eat carbohydrates if I'm working out as an anaerobic athlete? Or why should I eat healthy fats if I need to run for an hour or whatever? So I try to teach those athletes, explain to those athletes why and how it's going to help them. Not only in sports, but just think visualization before you go into your SATs, or making sure you're hydrated and fed before you go into some exam that you're going to. So I teach that why. And for example, so if we're teaching visualization, so the night before we bring it into the kids, and these kids are 11 to 14, perfect age. So we're talking about visualization, how you do it, the whys and everything. And then the next day we'll have an obstacle course. It'll have 15 different things. It'll have cones. It'll have gates. You've got to crawl under a thing. And so we'll inspect it, just like you're going to do in skiing. We'll then bring them to the start. Let's visualize. I test them on it. How many red gates? How many blue gates? What do you got to do here? Visualize it. How close to the time that you're going to get can you visualize it? And then you have them run the course. Then at the end of that course, what went right? What went wrong? How are you going to do it? And then another aspect of elite team that I think today's culture shies away from is let's look at who's the best. We write times on the board, because the kids knows who's fast. Don't think that by not timing kids, the kids don't know who's fast. Let's look at the fast guy or girl and figure out what they're doing. What can we learn from those people that are beating you to bring everyone up? So it's bringing in the physiology, the psychology, and the nutrition to everything we do, starting with the meeting, bringing it into the exercise, and then after that night, journaling about it. That way you've hit it 3 times instead of said, hey, why don't you inspect? And you've hit it once and you haven't made that impact.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to episode 1. We're going to continue with Doug Lewis, and we're going to dig even deeper for episode 2. So please tune in and wait till you get a load of what he has to say.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Spartan Up. Do you want to be ready for anything? Download Joe's free ebook at spartan.com/readyforanything. Do you know someone who needs a little help staying motivated, staying informed, getting or staying mentally and physically resilient? We're here 3 days every week with a mix of content to help you stay strong, from mindset to nutrition and everything in between. Listen every Tuesday to hear Joe DeSena, Spartan Race founder and CEO. And the rest of the week, join us for DEKA, Endurance, and Classic episodes. See you next time. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by FitAid. Race dirty, recover clean with FitAid Sports Recovery Drink. Visit lifeaidbevco.com and enter the code Spartan15 at checkout to get 15% off FitAid.